People with disabled kids. What's the most unconventional way you've learned to connect with them? My son Mateo is 16 and has been deaf since birth. We've been doing sign language since he was 3, but honestly, connecting with him always felt like work. Not because I didn't love him. I'd do anything for that kid. But he was so quiet, kept to himself, only really talked to me and his mom. At school, he had maybe 2 friends who knew basic signs. Most days he'd come home, do homework, play video games alone in his room. I kept thinking there had to be something that would make him open up more. Last summer, this scruffy brown dog started following us home from the park. Mateo was walking ahead of me like usual, hands in his pockets, when this dog just appeared and started trotting right next to him. I called out, "Hey, get away from him!" But the dog didn't even turn around. I clapped my hands loud. Nothing. Then I realized this old dog was probably deaf too. Mateo stopped walking and looked down at the dog. For the first time in months, I saw him actually smile. He knelt down and started petting this random stray like they were old friends. The dog's tail was going crazy, and Mateo looked back at me with this huge grin. He signed, "Can we keep him?" I was about to say no because we'd never had pets, but something about seeing Mateo that happy made me change my mind. We took the dog to the vet the next day. Turns out he was around 10 years old, mostly deaf, and had no chip. Mateo named him Flash, which I thought was funny since this dog moved slower than my grandma, but Mateo didn't care. He was obsessed with Flash from day one. Here's where it gets interesting. Mateo started trying to teach Flash commands, but obviously the dog couldn't hear sit or stay. So Mateo began using hand signals. Not sign language exactly, but his own made-up gestures. He'd point down with his whole arm for sit. He'd hold his palm up flat for stay. Within a week, Flash was following these signals perfectly. I watched from the kitchen window as Mateo worked with Flash in our backyard every afternoon after school. My son was teaching this deaf dog tricks using visual cues, and Flash was actually learning faster than most dogs I'd seen. Mateo would wave his hand in a circle, and Flash would spin around. He'd pat his leg, and Flash would come running over. Then Mateo started getting creative. He taught Flash to fetch specific items by pointing at them. He'd point at his shoe, and Flash would bring the shoe. Point at a stick, Flash would grab the stick. It was like watching my son become a different person, confident, patient, like a real teacher. One evening, Mateo came to me all excited, signing faster than I'd ever seen him sign. He wanted to build an obstacle course for Flash. We spent the whole weekend setting up tunnels made from cardboard boxes, jumps made from broomsticks, and weave poles using pool noodles. Mateo designed hand signals for each obstacle. A big sweep of his arm meant go through the tunnel. 2 hands waving meant jump over. Small back and forth motions meant weave through the poles. The first time Flash completed the whole course, Mateo literally jumped up and down cheering. I'd never seen him that proud of anything. But what really got me was when the neighbors started coming over to watch. Mrs. Kim from next door brought her grandkids. The Martinez family from across the street started hanging out in their yard just to see Flash perform. Suddenly, Mateo wasn't the quiet deaf kid anymore. He was the teenager with the amazing trained dog. Kids from school started asking if they could come see Flash do tricks. Mateo began teaching them some of his hand signals so they could try commanding Flash too. For the first time ever, my son was the center of attention in a good way.